My beloved daughter, your prayers have been answered. You shall give birth to twins, two strong boys who will bring greatness to your kingdom. They will be born with dreadlocks, a sign of their strength. But know this, one of them, the younger twin, will be stronger than the other. His power will come from his hair. If his locks are ever cut, he will lose all his strength. You must protect him at all costs. Welcome to Innocent Stories, where ancient tales come alive. Once upon a time, in the great Kakapo Kingdom, there lived a powerful and handsome king named King Obi, and his beautiful wife, Queen Ada. They ruled with wisdom and kindness, but despite all their wealth, power, and glory, they had one thing missing: a child. Can you imagine a palace without the laughter of a child? Stay tuned to find out how their prayers were answered. For many years, the king and queen tried everything. They visited the best healers, offered sacrifices to the gods, and even traveled to faraway lands searching for a cure to their barrenness, but nothing worked. Their palace remained silent, with no sound of a child's laughter. The people of Kakapo Kingdom began to whisper. Some said the gods had cursed the royal couple, others believed the queen was not destined to be a mother. Every day, Queen Ada cried herself to sleep, wishing and praying for a child to call her own. One fateful day, after another sleepless night filled with tears, Queen Ada decided to take matters into her own hands. What will she do to change her fate? Keep watching, Innocent Stories fans, for a twist you won't believe. She wrapped herself in a simple cloth and left the palace before dawn, heading straight to the great river of life, where it was said that the mighty river goddess Momora listened to the cries of barren women. She knelt by the riverbank, her hands trembling as she scooped the cool water into her palms. "Oh, great mother of the waters," she cried, "have mercy on me. Bless me with a child so that my home may be filled with joy." The river suddenly became still, as if time had stopped. Then, out of the depths, a beautiful woman with long flowing hair and skin that shone like the moon emerged from the water. It was Momora, the river goddess. "Queen of Kakapo," Momora spoke in a voice both gentle and powerful, "your prayers have been heard. You shall give birth to twins, two strong boys who will bring greatness to your kingdom." Queen Ada gasped in joy, her hands clutched to her chest. "Thank you, great goddess, thank you." But Momora raised a hand to silence her. "Listen carefully, woman," the goddess continued, "these boys will be special. They will be born with dreadlocks, a sign of their strength. But know this, one of them, the younger twin, will be stronger than the other. His power will come from his hair. If his locks are ever cut, he will lose all his strength. You must protect him at all costs." The queen nodded quickly, her heart pounding. She promised to do as she was told. With a final wave of her hand, the goddess disappeared back into the water, leaving Queen Ada staring at the rippling waves, her mind filled with both excitement and fear. 9 months later, the palace was filled with joy. Queen Ada had given birth to 2 beautiful baby boys. The kingdom rejoiced, drums were beaten, and the people danced from morning till night. The firstborn was named Peter, he was strong and wise. The secondborn was named Paul, he had an air of mystery about him. Even as a baby, there was something different about him. Unlike his brother, his cries were loud and powerful, shaking the very walls of the palace. His tiny fists were always clenched, and his eyes burned with an unusual fire. And, just as the river goddess had said, both boys were born with thick dreadlocks covering their heads. King Obi and Queen Ada remembered the warning: Paul's hair must never be cut. As the twins grew, it became clear that they were no ordinary children. Peter was intelligent and always listened to the elders. He trained with the best warriors, learning the art of combat and leadership. Paul, on the other hand, was different. He was faster, stronger, and more fearless than anyone had ever seen. By the time he was 5 years old, he could lift things that grown men struggled with. When he played, his laughter echoed like thunder, and when he was angry, the earth beneath him seemed to shake. One day, while playing with some palace guards, Paul accidentally pushed a full-grown man with just one finger. The man flew several feet away, landing hard on the ground. The entire kingdom began to speak of Paul's power. "He is a child of the gods," they whispered. "No human should have such strength." Some people feared him, while others admired him. Many years passed, and Peter and Paul grew into strong, handsome young men. Their childhood days were behind them, and now they were being prepared to take on the responsibilities of the royal family. Paul had grown into a fearless and mighty warrior, loved by the people for his incredible strength. He could wrestle the strongest men in the kingdom and defeat them effortlessly. His arrows never missed their target, and his presence on the battlefield was like that of a roaring thunderstorm. Peter, on the other hand, was cunning and ambitious. He had always believed that, as the firstborn, he was the rightful heir to the throne. But he lacked the bravery and strength of his younger brother. Though he trained with the warriors, his heart was filled with fear. One bright morning, King Obi decided to take his sons to the great forest of Kakapo, a land that stretched far and wide, filled with tall trees, wild rivers, and dangerous beasts. "You must learn to understand the land you will rule one day," the king said. "A true ruler does not just sit on the throne, he knows his kingdom inside and out." Excited, Paul and Peter rode their horses beside their father, deep into the forest. The air was thick with the scent of fresh leaves, and birds sang melodious tunes. But unknown to them, danger lurked in the shadows. As they reached the heart of the forest, a loud, terrifying roar echoed through the trees. The horses neighed in fear, their eyes wide with terror. Before they could react, a massive lion, as big as a buffalo, leaped out of the bushes, its sharp teeth glistening in the sunlight. "A lion," the king shouted, reaching for his sword. But before the king could do anything, Peter let out a scream and took off running, his feet kicking up dust as he disappeared into the forest. He ran faster than the wind, leaving his father and brother behind. But Paul stood his ground. His heart pounded, but he did not move. His hands clenched into fists, and he took a deep breath, staring directly into the lion's fierce eyes. "Come and fight me," Paul bellowed, pounding his chest. The lion roared and charged at him. Paul did not run. Instead, he picked up a thick tree branch lying on the ground and swung it with all his might. Crack! The branch hit the lion's head, but the beast only staggered back for a moment before roaring again. It pounced, its sharp claws aiming straight for Paul's chest. But Paul was faster. He rolled to the side and grabbed the lion by the mane, using his incredible strength to lift the mighty beast off the ground. King Obi watched in shock as Paul twisted the lion's neck with all his power. With a final snap, the lion fell to the ground, dead. The forest was silent. Paul wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at his father. "Are you hurt, father?" he asked, breathing heavily. King Obi shook his head in amazement. "No, my son," he said, placing a proud hand on Paul's shoulder. "You have done what no ordinary man could do. You are truly a gift from the gods." Paul smiled humbly, but deep inside, he knew this was just the beginning of his destiny. Meanwhile, Peter had reached the palace, his heart still pounding from the run, his clothes covered in dust. He burst into the throne room, where Queen Ada sat discussing matters with the palace elders. "Mother, mother!" Peter cried, fake tears rolling down his cheeks. Queen Ada's eyes widened in fear. "What is it, my son?" she asked, rushing to hold him. Peter fell to the floor, pretending to sob. "It is father and Paul. They are dead. A lion attacked us in the forest. I tried to help, but they were too far gone." The queen let out a piercing scream, clutching her chest. "No! My husband, my son," she cried, tears pouring down her face. Peter knelt beside her, pretending to console her. "Mother, do not cry. Now that father is gone, I will be king. I will take care of you," he whispered. Just then, the palace gates burst open. King Obi and Paul walked in, completely unharmed. Gasps filled the room. Queen Ada turned and saw them standing there, the king looking confused. The queen froze, her eyes darting between her husband and Peter. "What is going on here?" she asked, her voice trembling. King Obi frowned. "Peter, my son, what lies have you been telling your mother?" he demanded. Peter's face went pale, but he quickly forced a smile. "Father, you are alive." I was just scared. I thought you were dead," he stammered. But the queen was no fool. She turned to her husband. Tell me what really happened, she said. The king narrated everything, how Peter ran away in fear, leaving them behind, and how Paul killed the lion with his bare hands. Queen Ada's face darkened with anger. So, Peter, you ran away and left your father and brother to die, then came here and claimed you will be king soon, she asked coldly. Peter gulped. He tried to speak, but the anger in his mother's eyes silenced him. King Obi stepped forward, shaking his head in disappointment. You have brought shame upon this family, Peter. A leader must be brave, not a coward who lies to take power, he said. Peter dropped to his knees, pretending to be remorseful. Forgive me, father. I was just afraid. It will never happen again, he pleaded. King Obi sighed. You are my son, and I will forgive you, but I have seen the truth today, he said. The people of the kingdom celebrated Paul as the strongest warrior to ever live. They cheered his name in the streets, calling him Paul the Lion Slayer. To honor his courage, King Obi declared that after him, Paul would be the next ruler of Kakapo Kingdom. He also named him second in command, giving him power over the army and the kingdom's affairs. That night, as the kingdom rejoiced, Peter sat in his chambers, boiling with rage. How dare they praise Paul and not me, he muttered, clenching his fists. His hatred for Paul grew even stronger, but now it was not just Paul he despised, he also hated his own father. If father is dead, I will be king. I must find a way to take the throne, even if it means destroying them both. With darkness in his heart, Peter began to plot. Then an idea came to him, the dark arts. He had heard whispers in the marketplace about a powerful native doctor, Baba Kuro, a man who lived deep in the forbidden forest. It was said that his magic was feared by all, but he did not meddle in royal affairs. He will help me, Peter murmured. For the right price, he will give me the power to destroy Paul and take the throne. Without wasting time, he grabbed his cloak, covered his face, and slipped out of the palace under the cover of darkness. Peter rode his horse through the thick forest, the trees towering over him like silent giants. The deeper he went, the colder the air became. The path was dark and full of whispers, the sound of unseen creatures moving in the bushes around him. I must be strong, he reminded himself, gripping the reins of his horse. After what felt like hours of riding, he finally saw a small, crooked hut surrounded by bones and charms. Peter dismounted, his heart pounding. He walked forward and raised his hand to knock. Before his fingers could touch the door, it swung open on its own. A deep, chilling voice echoed from inside, I know why you are here. Peter stepped inside cautiously. Behind the table sat Baba Kuro, an old, terrifying man with dark red eyes. His skin was wrinkled like ancient tree bark, and his long, bony fingers drummed against the wooden table. Peter swallowed hard but kept his voice steady. I need your help, Great One, he said. I want my brother Paul dead. He has stolen my birthright. I must be king. The room fell silent. Baba Kuro did not move, he only stared at Peter, his glowing red eyes piercing into his soul. Then, suddenly, he let out a loud, thunderous laugh. Peter was shocked. He did not understand what was funny. The laughter stopped, and Baba Kuro leaned forward, his face now inches from Peter's. Foolish prince, he hissed, you dare ask me to meddle in royal blood? Peter's breath caught in his throat. But I am offering you gold, power, anything you want. Baba Kuro's eyes flashed with rage. There are things more powerful than gold, he roared, slamming his staff on the ground. Peter staggered back, suddenly feeling like a small boy before a raging storm. You are a greedy, foolish prince, Baba Kuro continued. You seek to kill your own brother and father. The gods will never allow it. Their blood is protected by a force greater than you can ever imagine. Peter's fists clenched. I will do whatever it takes, he shouted. Tell me what I must do. But Baba Kuro slammed his staff on the ground again. Get out, he thundered. Go back to your kingdom and never return to my shrine. Peter stumbled backward, his heart racing. Before he could argue, the ground beneath him shook violently. The door swung open on its own, and an invisible force pushed him outside. Peter sat on the ground, breathing heavily. He had been rejected. The native doctor had refused to help him. His hatred for Paul and King Obi burned even hotter. So, even the native doctors fear him, he muttered. Then I will have to handle this myself. As Peter rode back to the palace under the dark sky, his heart was filled with only one thought: revenge. If the gods and the sorcerers will not help me, then I will find another way, he vowed. He would have to be smart. He would have to be patient. Paul must fall first, then father. Then the throne will be mine. But how? A wicked smile crept across Peter's face. I will make him weak. I will strike where it hurts the most. For days passed, but Peter's heart was still filled with anger. He could not eat, he could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Paul standing beside their father, the great King Obi, while the people cheered his name: Paul the Lion Slayer, Paul the strongest man in Kakapo, Paul the future king. Their voices rang in Peter's ears like the sound of thunder before a great storm. What about me? Peter growled to himself. Am I not the firstborn? Am I not supposed to be the next king? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. I must find out where Paul gets his strength. What makes him so powerful? The next morning, Peter went to Paul's room, his mind filled with wicked thoughts. Paul was sitting on a wooden stool, sharpening his sword. Peter stepped inside, forcing a smile on his face. My dear brother, he said, you are truly a mighty man. The whole kingdom speaks of your strength. Paul looked up and smiled, not suspecting anything. Thank you, Peter, he said, setting down his sword. Peter took a step closer. But tell me, brother, he said in a low voice, where do you get your strength? How are you able to fight like 10 men? How did you kill that lion without even using a spear? Paul let out a small laugh, shaking his head. The gods of our land are with me, he said. They give me strength to protect our kingdom and our people. Peter's face darkened, his fingers curled into tight fists. So, I am the one the gods do not favor, he spat, his voice rising with anger. Paul frowned, confused. Brother, that is not what I meant. But Peter stepped back and hissed, his eyes burning with hatred. Enough, he snapped. You and your useless father, you both think you are better than me. But I will show you. I will deal with both of you. Paul's eyes narrowed. Peter, what are you saying? Peter did not reply. He turned sharply and stormed out of the room, his heart pounding like a war drum. After the tense encounter in his room, Paul could not shake off the strange feeling in his heart. His brother's words troubled him deeply. The anger in Peter's voice, the hatred in his eyes, it was not normal. Unable to keep the thoughts to himself, Paul decided to speak to his father. He walked straight to King Obi's royal chamber, where the king sat on his throne, reading ancient scrolls. As soon as Paul entered, the king looked up. My son, what troubles you? He asked, setting aside the scrolls. Paul bowed his head slightly before stepping forward. Father, I am worried about Peter. Today, he came to me asking where my strength comes from. When I told him that the gods of our land are with me, he became angry. He said he would deal with me and with you. The king's brows furrowed in concern. Peter said this, he asked. Paul nodded. King Obi let out a deep sigh and leaned forward. Paul, there is something you must know, he said in a low voice. Paul listened carefully as his father continued. Your strength does not come from ordinary power. Your hair is the source of your strength. As long as your dreadlocks remain untouched, you will be stronger than any man in this kingdom. Your hair must never be cut. If it is, you will lose all your strength. Paul's eyes widened in shock. My hair, he repeated, touching the thick dreadlocks on his head. But father, Peter has the same hair as mine. Why is mine different? King Obi placed a strong hand on his son's shoulder. Because, my son, you were chosen by the gods. You were ordained before you were born to be the protector of this kingdom. You are special, Paul. That is why no man can defeat you. Paul felt a mix of emotions, pride, confusion, and fear. So, if my hair is cut, I will become weak, he asked. The king nodded. Yes, my son. That is why you must be careful. Never let anyone touch your hair. But neither of them knew that Peter was standing outside the chamber, listening to every word. When he heard that Paul's strength was in his hair, his heart leapt with joy. So, that is the secret, he whispered to himself, his lips curled into a wicked smile as a plan began to form in his mind. If I can cut Paul's hair, he will become weak, he thought, his eyes gleaming with evil excitement. And once he is weak, I will destroy him. Then I will deal with Father. The throne will be mine. Peter could barely contain his excitement and wicked joy. He turned quickly and rushed back to his room, his heart pounding with anticipation. As soon as he stepped inside, he locked the door and began pacing back and forth, thinking deeply. How do I do it? Paul is always on guard. Father has warned him. He will not allow anyone near his hair. He stopped and rubbed his chin, deep in thought. I cannot fight him. I cannot force him. But maybe there is another way. A way to make him trust me. Then an idea struck him like lightning. A dark, evil grin spread across his face. Yes, he murmured, his eyes glowing with wickedness. I will not rush. I will be patient. I will pretend to love him. I will make him trust me again. And when the time is right, I will strike. Peter laughed softly, a laugh full of evil and deceit. Your days of being the strongest are over, Paul. I will cut off that your smelling hair, and you will be nothing. Then I will be the ruler of Kakapo Kingdom. The next morning, Peter could no longer hold in his anger. His father's words to Paul the night before kept ringing in his head, you were chosen by the gods. Your hair is your strength. You are special, Paul. Each word felt like a spear to Peter's chest. And what about me, he muttered to himself as he paced around his room, his fists clenched tightly. Am I not also a son of King Obi? Am I not the firstborn? Why does he treat me like I am nothing? His hatred boiled inside him like hot water in a clay pot. I will not keep quiet anymore. Today, I will ask him directly. Without thinking twice, Peter stormed out of his chambers and marched straight to the royal hall, where King Obi sat on his golden throne. King Obi was busy discussing important matters with his council when Peter barged into the throne room without warning. The elders turned in shock, their eyes widening at Peter's disrespectful entrance. But Peter did not care. Father, we need to talk, he said, his voice filled with anger and frustration. King Obi looked up, his eyes calm but firm. Peter, my son, what is the meaning of this? He asked. Peter walked forward, his hands shaking with rage. Why do you hate me so much, Father? He asked. Why do you love Paul more than me? Why do you treat me like I am nothing? I am your first son, yet you made Paul second in command instead of me. Am I not supposed to be the next king? The room fell silent. The council members looked at each other, sensing the tension in the air. King Obi took a deep breath and stood up from his throne. Peter, my son, he said in a calm but firm voice, you do not understand what it takes to be a king. Peter's eyes burned with fury. What do you mean? I am your firstborn. That alone is enough. King Obi shook his head. No, Peter. Being the firstborn does not make you a leader. A king must be strong, wise, and selfless. A king must be ready to defend his people. A king must rule with justice and wisdom. And you, my son, you lack all these things. Peter staggered back, his heart pounding with shock and rage. What are you saying, Father? He asked. King Obi stepped closer to his son, his eyes filled with both disappointment and sadness. Peter, let me tell you why I did not make you my second in command, he said. 1. You are reckless. You act without thinking. You do not consider the consequences of your actions. Peter's chest rose and fell with anger, but the king continued. 2. You are careless. You do not take responsibility for your duties. You do not think about the future of this kingdom. 3. You waste money. You spend gold on useless things. You throw feasts when there is nothing to celebrate. You do not know how to manage the wealth of this kingdom. Peter's jaw tightened, his lips pressing together in fury. "4. The king continued, "You love women too much. Instead of preparing yourself for the throne, you chase after pleasure. A true king must have discipline, but you have none." Peter's face turned red with shame and rage, but the king's next words cut him the deepest. 5. You do not have the strength to defend this land. You are always fearful. You ran away when the lion attacked us in the forest, leaving me and your brother behind. How can a coward rule a kingdom? Peter's entire body stiffened, his heart pounded in his chest like a war drum. The king looked him straight in the eye. "Peter, my son, these are the reasons why I do not need you as my successor." The words felt like a slap across Peter's face. His pride shattered, his ego burned like fire. His hands trembled with fury. Peter took a step back, his eyes filled with pure rage. "So, that is it," he spat, his voice shaking. "You have already chosen Paul over me. You have already decided that I am useless." King Obi sighed. "Peter, you can change. If you learn from your mistakes, you can become a better man. But right now, you are not ready to be king." Peter felt something snap inside him. "Then I don't need you either, father," he whispered, his voice dripping with venom. "You are not my father anymore. I will take the throne, whether you want it or not." And with that, he spun on his heels and stormed out of the throne room, his face twisted with anger and vengeance. The elders whispered amongst themselves, shocked by Peter's words. King Obi watched his son leave, a deep sorrow filling his heart. "May the gods protect him from himself," he muttered. Peter rushed back to his room, his mind spinning with dark thoughts. His father had humiliated him in front of the elders. His father had chosen Paul over him. His father had called him a coward. "I will show him." Peter screamed. "I will show them all. I will take the throne by force." Peter couldn't let go of his anger. He had tried everything, yet Paul still stood strong, and their father had humiliated him. If he couldn't defeat Paul with his own hands, then he would find another way. He traveled to a neighboring village and found Zara, a young woman known for her beauty and charm. "I have a job for you," Peter said. Zara raised an eyebrow. "And what do I get in return?" Peter tossed a small bag of gold at her feet. "That's just the beginning. There's more if you do as I say." She picked up the bag, weighing it in her hand. "What do you need?" "Paul," Peter hissed. "I want you to get close to him. Make him trust you. And when the time is right, cut off his hair." Zara's eyes widened. "His hair?" "Yes," Peter hissed. "That's where his strength comes from. If you can't cut it, poison him. Make sure he doesn't live." Zara looked at the gold again, then nodded. "Consider it done." Zara arrived in Kakapo Kingdom and pretended to be a lost traveler. Paul, always kind-hearted, welcomed her with open arms. As days passed, Zara saw something different in Paul. He wasn't just strong, he was noble, kind, and full of wisdom. He treated everyone with respect, even the lowest servant. For the first time in her life, Zara felt something real. She couldn't go through with it. One evening, she went to Paul and knelt before him. "I have something to tell you," she said, her voice shaking. Paul frowned. "What is it?" Zara took a deep breath. "Peter sent me. He paid me to cut your hair or poison you if that failed." Paul was shocked. "Peter?" She nodded, tears in her eyes. "But I can't do it. You don't deserve this." Paul was silent for a long time, then he stood and called for the guards. "Bring my father," he said. That night, the entire royal court gathered. Zara confessed everything. Peter was brought in, his hands tied. King Obi looked at him, disappointment in his eyes. "My own son, you tried to kill your brother." Peter frowned. "You never wanted me to be king. You always chose Paul over me." King Obi shook his head. "No, Peter. You chose greed. You chose hatred." The council demanded punishment. Banish him, one shouted. He is a danger to us all, another added. King Obi sighed. Peter, for your betrayal, you are no longer a prince. You are banished from Kakapo Kingdom. You will never return. Peter struggled against the guards. You will regret this. One day, I will return and take everything from you. But his words meant nothing. The guards dragged him out, and that was the last time Peter ever set foot in Kakapo Kingdom. With Peter gone, peace returned to the land. Paul continued to serve his father, protecting the kingdom with wisdom and strength. Zara, ashamed of her past, left the palace, vowing to live an honest life. And as for King Obi, he ruled for many more years, knowing that his kingdom was safe in the hands of Paul, the strongest warrior Kakapo had ever known. Dear Innocent Stories viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates from Innocent Stories. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.